This screencast is for the Professional Portfolio of Subject Knowledge, which is your first summative assignment, and it's part of your Subject Pedagogy module, and it's component 1, the first assignment, first summative assignment. So when you're writing your professional portfolio of subject knowledge, you should be writing out and thinking about it as if it's an interview portfolio, so something that you can take with you when you go to interviews, highlighting where your knowledge is strong and how you develop strong subject knowledge. And in it you should be outlining your vision for yourself as a teacher of your subject and where you see the subject's role to be within the wider curriculum. Now, within the first formative assignment, this is what you'll have done already by the time you started to write this assignment. And thirdly, is indicating how you've developed your subject knowledge and subject pedagogy. And this isn't just whilst on the PGCE, this is looking at running up to the PGCE as well as during the PGCE. So it's recognising subject knowledge you bring with you from your degree or from any industrial experience or education experience that you've had prior to starting the PGCE. So the structure will look something like this. Now it could look different depending on what your route is. So some routes will be much more visual. Some routes might want to use links to video materials. So the basic structure gives you an idea of how you might lay it out. So you can have your cover, your personal statement, role of the subject within the curriculum. You can have two analyses, one looking at an aspect of pre-initial teacher education subject knowledge, and another looking at a new area you've developed whilst you've been on the PGCE so far. And you're going to be having references and appendices. So the next few slides will take you through that content. So firstly, the cover. So think about it being professionally presented, so using appropriate images, text, to present you as a professional teacher of your subject. So when you're choosing images or photographs, think very carefully about what you would want to present about yourself and what your values and beliefs are. So have your full name, so your student number for Liverpool John Moores University, and the assignment title, Professional Portfolio of Subject Knowledge. Module and component should be identified, and also the date of submission. So think carefully about how you want to present this. So section 1, which you've had a go at writing already, is 200 to 300 words. So it's your something to encapsulate your vision for your subject, and this should reflect your values, experience, strengths, personality, attitude and attributes, and areas for development. So it is very brief. You might not cover all of those aspects in great detail, but it's setting forward what sort of teacher do you aim to be, what sort of teacher are you, and what sort of teacher do you aim to be. So in the second section, which is a little bit longer, 400 to 500 words, you're going to be outlining the development of your subject and the contemporary issues. So you might look at specific issues within your subject, or you might look at the broader issues within education, how that impacts on your subject. And you want to be referring to subject pedagogy, and you want to be referring to curriculum and policy documents. So for example, subject pedagogy, it might be you've read something like this series, the Learning to Teach books from Routledge, and there's one of these for each subject. You might also look at other key readings from your subject pedagogy module guide, and also things like curriculum and policy documents. So it might be generic policy documents, but probably you're wanting to be focusing on subject specific. So for example, the National Curriculum Programmes of Study, either the current, which is 2007, which has now actually been disapplied, or those to be taught in 2014. You want to be discussing the role and value of your subject. So why have your subject? Why have science? Why have maths? Why have design and technology? Insert your own subject here within the curriculum, and what do they offer to learners within a broader curriculum. So again, it's linking to the national curriculum in England, and when you're referring to policy documents, you should be referring to relating to curriculum in the UK and specifically England. And you also might want to reflect the models and methods of teaching and learning that are used within your subject. So each subject will have different approaches, so practical subjects, a demonstration and teacher modelling of physical activities, whether that's in PE or sports, or whether it's in creative and practical subjects like art and design or design and technology. I might use demonstration and teaching modelling very heavily. Again, in science, I do use experimentation, or in other subjects you might use role play to develop subject knowledge. So are there any particular models and methods of teaching used within your subject? So within this section, it's showing your awareness of your subject, the role it plays within the curriculum, and so on. So for your main sections, for your analyses, where you're focusing on your subject knowledge, it's going to be between 350 and 450 words, and it's coming from your subject knowledge audit. So you're going to be identifying an aspect of subject knowledge which is a strength, and you're going to be describing and analysing aspects of that subject knowledge. So think about its relevance to the curriculum that you're going to be teaching as a teacher of your subject, and how this area might be, or how it is taught from what you've seen, and possibly what some common misconceptions might be around the particular aspect of subject knowledge. So we'd encourage you not to go too broad in this section, because you've got quite a limited word count for it, but focus on an aspect of strength which has come from your subject knowledge audit, and start to think about how it links, how it's relevant to teaching of your subject. You might also reflect on your own experience of learning that particular aspect of subject knowledge, and we'd encourage you to use literature, including policy and curriculum documents, to support and tie in how that subject knowledge is both relevant and important to teaching of your subject. Within this section, you're able to use just written descriptions, written analysis and reflection, but also you might want to include, if it's a visual subject or there's some visual materials, you can include images, whether it's your own work, examples of pupils' work, suitably anonymised, or it might be you've got something which is more suitably communicated by video, so you could use Vimeo or YouTube and put a link within your analysis if that would be helpful to demonstrate and explain and illustrate your subject knowledge. And linked to the two analyses you're going to write, the one of pre-ITE subject knowledge, you're going to be writing yourself one or two SMART targets. These will go in the appendix, and you should use the SMART principles when you're writing those. So section 4 is analysis of new subject knowledge, or subject knowledge you've developed. So it is going to be very similar to the expectations of section 3, but focusing on a new aspect of knowledge developed from your subject knowledge audit. Now, it could also be where you've developed your ability to teach that aspect of subject knowledge. So you can be in a situation where you've got very strong subject knowledge, but you find it challenging to be able to teach that, to bring that down to a level where learners can engage with it and then start to build their own knowledge. So it could be an aspect of how you've developed the ability to teach that aspect of subject knowledge, or it could be as simple as there's a new area of knowledge that you hadn't experienced before. So it might be a second specialism within your subject that you haven't had experience of, or you haven't had much experience of on your previous studies or work. So you need to think about what's appropriate for something you've developed. So again, it's looking at positives, it's looking at knowledge which is being developed. So it could be subject knowledge, or it could be pedagogical knowledge. Okay, so think about how you developed that knowledge. How did you approach it? Was it through knowledge developed in university, in the sessions that you come to with us, or is it knowledge developed while you're on placement, or have you gone off and developed that knowledge in some other way through working with mentors in schools, or going and finding out for yourself, or working with your peers? So it's thinking about how you've developed that knowledge. And also you should be thinking in this section about how you have or how you would approach teaching that area of subject knowledge. Okay, so we're obviously going to have references in there because you're using literature. So just a few thoughts on that. So we are using Harvard Conventions. We'd recommend the LJMU guide, which is just on the screen. There are other useful guides as well. So Anglia Ruskin University website has got an online resource which is very useful. But in terms of our standards and expectations, the LJMU guide is what we'd recommend or what we work to. You're going to be listing your references in alphabetical order, so you can have one list. You're not going to split them into different types of sources, so whether they're books, journals, websites and so on. You're going to put the most recent publication, if you've got multiple publications for the same author, most recent first. And you're going to list all sources. So if you're selecting appropriate sources, whether they're websites or whether they're books, then you should be choosing quality and appropriate sources. So we're going to put them all together in the references, and you're going to reference those correctly. Now, if you want some more guidance on referencing and typical formats of referencing, have a look towards the end of the screencast for the 7007 formative assignment, which is the annotated bibliography, and that has a bit more detail on referencing. Okay, and finally, the appendices. So there are some essential appendices. These are not part of the word count, so when you're totting up how many words you've written, you don't include what goes in the appendices. They're supplementary documents, so there are some essential ones. Your subject knowledge audit is essential. Your targets, so one or two for each analysis, so you can have a total of between 2 and 4 SMART targets. You're going to put your curriculum vitae in there, which will have your employment and your education history. Now, it's up to you what format you choose for that. There are a number of different options out there, and if you do have any questions or concerns, then either speak to your personal tutor or your root leader about how you should format that. And if you do refer to any other evidence or documentation within your analyses, then you should include those within your appendix. A rule of thumb is that if you haven't referred to it in your essay, literature review, research report, or whatever it is you're writing, you haven't referred to something, then it doesn't go in the appendix. So only stuff which has been referred to directly should go in an appendix. So other appropriate stuff which you might think are relevant, which you make reference to, might be things like lesson plans or resources that you've talked about within your analyses. You might put examples of pupils' work and so on if you've not included them within the main body of your portfolio. But make sure you suitably anonymise any pupils' work that you put in, and don't identify specific schools. So if you do have any further questions, then there is further guidance in the module guide for your subject pedagogy module, and there is another document you can download with further information which just expands on what's been in this screencast. That should be within your subject pedagogy module within your assignment section or assessment section. If you can't find that, then speak to your root leader.